Hi everyone, welcome back to Bernina Club, September 2022. Gosh, where does the time go? Today I'm going to show you something that I had a look up back in 2014. Crazy. So I'm doing it again because we've just got some of the products back in that we need. Now this is a microwave bowl cover. So you do not have to burn your fingers when you put your bowls in the microwave to heat up your soup or whatever you're heating up. So it's simply a square of fabric, and this one's a 10.5 by 10.5 inch square, and you put your bowl, all your food in the microwave, your soup in the microwave, then you can simply lift it up, put it in the microwave, and then when it's hot, the bowl's hot, you don't have to try and lift it out. You can simply lift it by the corners and take your food out. So it's very, very good. Now, if you don't want the points like this, you can make a little round one that ends up looking like a bit of a flower, and you can just lift it up from the sides. Now, if you have trouble lifting, you can actually make a little handle here and here, and then you can lift it up by the little handle. So if you can't lift it up by here because you don't have the strength, little handle will mean you can put your fingers underneath and lift the whole thing up. So that's another option as well. Now these are made out of 100% cotton fabric. So obviously anything that's 100% cotton, and your wadding must be 100% cotton wadding. All right. And the next thing you have to remember is your thread needs to be 100% cotton. So we don't want to put anything in the microwave that is going to burn. So that's why we do this. Now when I'm using a dark colour, I'll actually chalk my marks on to do some quilting. When I'm using a lighter colour, I need a fold line to follow to quilt. So I just do a pressing line here and a pressing line there. But on a dark colour like this, I like using the charcoal liner. So we're going to draw a diagonal line from corner to corner, and that's going to be our stitching line. So what we're doing is just doing a straight stitch, 3 lengths with our cotton thread to hold our wadding, and that's all it is. There's no drama. You're just doing a straight row. So we're just putting a line on here because I'm using black. Now, on your wadding, we want to fold our wadding in half this way, and we want to mark it with a pen. Get the halfway mark. Got a bit of fluff on there. Halfway mark. And what we want to do is get our sewing gauge, and wherever we've marked our halfway mark, we want to put our sewing gauge on 2 inches or 5 centimetres. We want to lay our sewing gauge down on the mark we've done and mark 1 inch on either side of our central line. Oh, we've got threads everywhere. Then we're going to measure down from the side 2 inches, and we're making a dart. So we're now drawing up our little dart. Do I do this? No, I'm going to show you my method shortly. But when you're learning, this is a good way to do it. So you're just putting a rough line so you can see where to do your dart. So it's going to look like that. Okay, so I'm not going to do this. I'm going to show you my method, but I just want you to see that because you might like to get it all ready and do that. Now, you then lay your wadding on the back, and you don't need to spray it or anything. You could just clip it if you want to hold it, or put a couple of pins in, but honestly, it doesn't really move because it's so little. So 100% cotton thread. If you want to make a feature, do a colour. I'm just going to use black because I don't really need to make a feature of it. So all I'm going to do is sew from corner to corner, and I'm going to use my straight stitch and put my stitch length on about 3, and I'm telling the machine I've got my walking foot on. What you can do is you can use your walking foot, or you can use a normal if you've got a machine like this, you can use any one of your feet that's got the ability to have the dual feed. I just happen to have the walking foot on, so I'm going to use it. So anything will be fine for this job. It's only small. So I don't really need to backstitch or anything, and all I'm doing is sewing from one point to the next. The reason why I put the markings on the back is because the next thing we do is do darts, and you want it on the wrong side of your wadding. And then go from the other corner to corner. Nope. Should we try that again? Lift that up. Make sure my thread's out. I'll just start again there. And straight through the middle, the central, and straight to the opposite end. I thought this fabric was a little bit cute actually. So this one I'm making smaller. This is going to be a 9.5 inch square. It doesn't matter, whatever you like. Now, all you do, once you've done that, is here's your marking. You're just going to put right side to right side, and see if I could get a brighter colour to show you. Everything doesn't mark very well on here. I'm just trying to get a brighter colour. Oh, that's better. Now you can see it. So there I'm just going to sew my dart from here to this point. So this is 1 inch across and 2 inches down. So what I do, instead of marking it all, I'm going to show you what I do. I use my sewing gauge, and I'll show you how I do it. So when you're going to start something, always have your threads out to the side, like that, and I do reverse here, and I go down to my point, because I'm not going to tie them off, so I'm going to reverse. Then I just cut it. So instead of doing all of these marks, all I do is I put my right side to right side, I get my quilting guide, and I measure 1 inch on my quilting guide, and I just put my needle down, and then I come down and I measure 2 inches, and I just sew to that 2 inch mark. So I don't bother marking it all. I just use my finger and I go like that, because at the end of the day, it is a bowl cover. These are not darts that are going in your top that you're going to be wearing, so it's not drastic that they are all perfect. So again, just fold it, right side to right side, make sure there's no fabric caught anywhere, and then just measure along 1 inch, put your needle down, measure down 2 inches, and just put your finger at the, oops, I forgot to backstitch it, that's all right, it gets restitched, and you do that obviously 4 times. Wait for the machine to be ready. So just pull your finger, make sure you've got your fabric all flat in there, there's not going to be any tucks. Measure across 1 inch, put your needle down, remember to go forward and reverse, measure down 2 inches, and that just saves marking it, because it is quite tricky to mark on wadding, and you really don't need to. Now the next thing you need to do, these are so quick and easy to make, they're wonderful. The next thing you need to do is just clip down through the middle, like that, on all pieces, and do the lining exactly the same. So you're going to have one piece like this, and your lining is going to be exactly the same. So I'm not going to waste time and show you that, because that's quite obvious. But what you do here is you just open out your little darts and just give them a little press. Oops. Just like that, just a little press, just so it's flattened, and you've got each dart flattened like that. Okay, so you're going to have an inner exactly the same. So here's one I prepared earlier. So I'm doing the little flower one, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to change my thread colour, because this one is a pale colour. I'll put that thread there, just so I remember that is my 100% cotton thread. I don't want to get it mixed up with any polyester. So this is 100% cotton thread in my bobbin, and this is my 100% cotton thread on my top. So I keep those separate so I know what they are and keep them together. So once you've got your outer all done with your darts and your inner all done with your darts, you just mark where your seam is and put a clip on and just clip it all the way around. I should trim my threads like so, and I'm going to leave an opening to turn through. Now if I wanted to do my little handle here, I would make a little handle. Now I'll show you what I'd make that with. Let me just cut a bit of fabric and show you. All I would do, I should have thought about that earlier, I just thought about it right now because some of you might like to make handles. Just cut about 1.25 inches of fabric. I better go all the way down. And just sew a straight stitch, so you're sewing a nice narrow seam, and I'm just going to run my foot along the edge, and then I'm going to move my needle position to the right, far right, and I'm just going to run a straight stitch down there, and then I'm going to pull it through with my loop turner. I'll chop that beginning off because I haven't shut my door. I haven't threaded my machine. One moment, please. Remember, I just cut that thread and I've only done half the job. So I'm just going to put my thread in the top. So remember, always have your foot up and threading. I hold the thread at the top until I go all the way down to the needle, and that ensures my tension's nice and firm. And I am using a walking foot which has no opening. So what I do is I hold my bobbin thread, I do one stitch, lift it up, put my foot up, and I just slide whatever's handy underneath. So I'm starting off with both threads under my foot. Close the door and we will do that again. So I'll start from this end because I don't need a long length anyway. But just so you see what to do, because it's all very well me telling you, but unless you see it, you're like, oh, what does she mean? So just sew down. Just a nice little narrow seam. I'll chop this end off because I'm not going to be using it anyway. That would have been interesting running out of thread. So just sew down. Now I always have a loop turner handy because I use them all the time. Always using my loop turner. You know I love my loop turner. So there's my, I'd probably even do it narrower than that. I'm just going to do one more seam. It's a little bit wide. I started off narrow, wasn't watching what I was doing. I was too busy chattering. That's better. It was a little bit wide. That looks better. Now when you're doing a loop, how much do I need it to be? Only about that much. When you're doing a loop, make sure, this will do, make sure that this seam is narrower than your opening or you won't be able to pull it through. So I'm just going to trim this up. So always make sure that the seam on the side is nice and narrow so it's easy to pull it through the loop. And that's where a lot of people get stuck because it's too wide. So you can see now this seam from my stitching seam is nice and narrow. And then you're just going to put your loop turner through, hook it around, and then once you start, you're pretty much got to keep your tension on and pull it through. And I always love doing this because it'll either go perfect the first time or it will take you for ages just to get it started, for a long time. So you just got to persevere. So once you start, Just make sure you haven't caught it anywhere. And I always want to lick my fingers, and I'm trying not to, but it's okay because you're not in the room. So just lick your fingers and hold it, and then start pulling it through. Once you start it, it's going to go. Keep your tension on. Make sure you haven't caught it anywhere. And all I'm going to do is rub my fingers and pull it. So rub my fingers, hold my tension on, and pull it through. Can you see it's starting to pull through here? And then pull it all the way. Pull it out, then press it with your iron, and you've made a little loop. And this can be your little handle. So where I would put this, if I'm looking at this, it wants to be where my darts are. So I'd probably make it about that long, and all I do is I would slip it in here. I'm not going to leave this in here because I don't want this in here, but I'm just showing you that's where it would go, and I would pin it, clip it. Don't pin anything these days. Bring my loop up, and I'd clip it like that. All right, and then sew it. So what would happen if you look here, it would end up like this. And it would be on the inside. So you'd have two little handles like that. Quite a cute idea. I'm not going to do it, but it's quite a cute idea. So now I'm just going to sew around this. Now I can leave the walking foot on, or you could put your 1/4 inch foot on, whatever works for you. And you'll notice I'm working with a Perspex table. And if I'm using something like this, I'm going to have to sit it up. So all I do is pop out my Perspex table, because I can leave everything as it is, the machine as it is, and then just put it down here. So I don't bother popping my machine up. I just leave everything in my Perspex. I take the Perspex table out and just leave it all in here. Now I do want to leave an opening, so don't get all excited and sew around the whole thing. So I'm going to leave my needle position on the right for my narrow seam, and I'm going to go forward, and I'm definitely going to go reverse, and I'm going to come, just bring my stitch length back to normal, and I'm going to come down to my dart and just back stitch, make it strong, and I'm going to lift my foot up, turn my work, keep all my edges even, match up the seam, the quilting, and then just go all the way around. But you can see how nice and easy it is because I've taken the Perspex table off. It's much, much easier. Make sure your darts are nice and even. I left my knee control over there, that's why I'm using my machine to lift my foot up, and I could put my hover on and then it would lift it up by itself. You can do all sorts of things to these amazing machines. So just stitch it all the way around. Make sure when you get to your seams that they're all still pressed open. You don't have to worry about any raw edges because it's all going to, I'm just going to backstitch that join because I don't think I backstitched my darts very well on this one. That's why I'm just being a bit more cautious. So stitch around here. Now remember where your opening is because you want to, don't keep sewing. Just remember where it is. And I've been clever and put a pin there. Okay. And my little clips go in here. So come down, make sure your seam's flat, which it is. Come down to your seam. This one I can tell I backstitched. Isn't it interesting? If you miss that little step, come around, and here's my pin, so I know that's where to leave my opening. Okay, so always leave a pin to where to leave my opening. And that's all there is to it. So you've now got an inside out bowl. What I like to do now is just clip my curves. Don't have to clip around here, but just at those points and just at that point there. Okay, and then I do that one, so just like this, so just clipping there, okay, and there. So now I pull it through and top stitch. Very, very quick, very, very easy. Great gifts to give people for presents because it's very, very useful. I think these ones are quite pretty. So here's the pattern which I have already sent to you. It is just a 10.5 inch square or 9.5 inch square. Halfway along you draw a 2 inch by 2 inch dart, and that's your pattern. And all I did on this one, if you want to make a curved one, is just get your bowl and curve it and cut the corners off. It's very, very easy. So I'll just push this out, press it, and then top stitch it. So they're a nice, easy thing to make, quick, easy, and useful. All right, and then just give it a good press, and it's reversible as well, which I like. I like the fact it's reversible. So I go in and push it out because it's just the quickest, easiest way to do it. Okay, and then all I do to top stitch, I'll just do a petal to show you because we've got too much to show you today. But all you're doing to top stitch, obviously leaving it with your Perspex table off and running my foot on the right side, starting at a dart, put my foot down, can't do that, and go longer stitch length. So I'm going out to about 3 length, forward and reverse, and then you've got your front and back nice and even, and just go nice and slow around your curves. You need to stop and regroup. Stop, lift your foot up, turn your work slightly, lift your foot down. So knee control, or you can do it by hand. I'll just come to here because I haven't pressed it all. So I'm just going from one petal to another petal to show you. And cut. And let the machine lift up. So there you can see from front to back, right side to right side, and then when you turn it over, you've got your top stitch on here. Okay, nice and easy. If you don't want a wide top stitch, you can do what I've done on this one, and I used my edge stitch foot, number 10, and I just ran my edge stitch foot around there and put my needle position to the left. So whichever way you do it, they're a great, great gift and a really nice thing to make for people. Now, the next thing I'm going to show you is from one of the Benina blogs. So I'm just going to pop this back in here. Like that. And it is one of these wonderful little triangle pouches. And they simply just zip down, simply. And I'm going to use mine to keep my USB sticks in here because I'm always losing them. So that's what my one's going to be for my USB sticks. I think they're really cute. And it's a very, very quick and easy thing. Now, many, many years ago, we did something similar, and it was a Pukeko. So it was very similar to this. So it's just a really cute little easy pouch. And I decided to double the pattern. You've been sent the pattern already. And when you double the pattern, you end up with a really, really large pouch. And believe it or not, this pouch is for my iron. So my iron gets folded up and it can live in here, and it's finally got a home. So what I did on this one is I just found a fabric that I loved, and I just did rows of fancy stitches down the fabric lines. So it looks really, really, really nice. So that is double the size. So just double your width, double your length. Now how you make this is you simply have an 8-inch zip or longer. You have 2 pieces of fabric for your binding. They're 6.5 inches by, I think, 1 3/4. And you have your pieces of fabric, and any fabric will be fine. And you have a piece of Soft and Stable. So Soft and Stable's the kind of like a foam wadding that I use for all my bags, and that's why it stays upright. It's very, very light and it's beautiful to work with. Now, instead of making something plain, I've decided to top stitch it with a fancy stitch. This is just the running zigzag, so I've actually quilted this before I start. You don't need to, but it's just a bit of fun. And another thing you can do is just get plain fabric and do your fancy stitches on it. So I used a 30 weight thread, and I did it in orange just so it would show up and it would look a bit of fun. And then I've got my lining. So how you make this, I'm just going to take this thread off because we don't want to use all our beautiful cotton thread on this. We want to keep that for our bags, for our microwave bowls. So we'll just throw that into there. And I've got just some standard thread here. I don't need to put my top stitch that I'm going to use later on. And I'm going to take my walking foot off and I'm going to use my zip foot. So the zip foot is foot number 4 and it looks like this. It's just a little tiny foot, and it just means you can put your needle position to the left and the right. So I'm going to tell my machine I've got a number 4 foot on, and I'm going to show you how to sew in the zip. It is so quick and easy to make this. You're going to really enjoy it. There we go. Make sure you take your thread out, pop a thread on top, and always make sure you put your thread spool to match your thread. Okay? I'm going to make sure that my needle position is on far right and take my length down to my normal sewing length. And I have changed my bobbin, I believe, just not even thinking about it, but I'll just double check. Did I take my thread out? Did it without even thinking about it. So I've changed my thread. Shut your bobbin door, and I've got my needle position to the right. Now all you do is lay your zip down, and you want your zip to be overlapping so it's going to be easy to do the next step. So I'm just laying my zip down right side to right side. I'm putting my, I'm going to put my needle position to the left because I'm going to sew from the top down. So watch, I'm moving my needle position all the way to the left, and I am going to put my needle down and stitch straight down beside my zip. Oh, further, there we go. So I'm just sewing down beside my teeth of my zip. So that's your first step. Oop. Oh, yep, we're good. Now, no, we're not. I've got my zip stuck. There we go. Now we're good. Cut my thread. Now, you could have done this all at once, but I now put my lining on, and if you turn it over, oh, look at my thread, my orange thread. If you turn it over to the wrong side now, you can see where you have sewn and you want to sew inside that line. So I'm putting the right side of my fabrics together, and I'll put a couple of clips in so you can see what I'm doing. So there and there. And I'm turning over and I'm sewing just on the inside of that line. So I'm just doing a second row of stitching. This makes it very, very tidy. And you don't have to worry about your fabric moving because you've already got one stitched on, okay? Very good. The next step, I'm going to press and top stitch. So what I've done now is I've sandwiched my zip between my two pieces of fabric, and I'm going to fold my fabric back so that these edges are even here, and I'm going to clip it. So I'm going to go clip and clip. So I can now pull that zip and stretch that and press it and know that's going to be nice and tight. So be careful because you've got a nylon zip. So just press on your cotton fabric. And now you can top stitch. So now I do want to have my blue thread in the bobbin. I am always chopping and changing my threads. But if you're making them for, you know, for a gift, you do want to make it look as nice as you can. And I am actually going to put the orange thread on top to top stitch. So I'm going to leave my needle position to the left, and I'm going to leave it on the, I'm going to lengthen it out actually to about 310, and I'm going to top stitch right beside that zip and finish that edge. So notice I've put my cap spool on round the other way because I have a smaller reel of thread. On this reel of thread, I turned my cap spool round because this was a similar size. Okay, I actually put that up there. Do not leave thread dangling around like this and putting it on there, because that thread, especially on the older machines, can get caught around your balance wheel and wind off meters and meters and meters of this thread, and eventually you'll bring it into the workshop and you'll say, my machine's not working, but all the thread is stuck in your balance wheel. It's happened more than once. In fact, a lady the other day could not believe it. So see how I thread? I hold my thread. I bring my thread all the way down to my needle before I release it, and then use my needle threader. Didn't put it behind my little bar. I like it in behind there. Doesn't pop out then. There we are. So remember, I've got blue thread in the bobbin. Close my door. I've got my needle position still to the length. I've pulled this nice and tight, and now I'm going to top stitch to the left hand side of my work. Cut my thread, and then hold your zip and just stitch from front to back. I'm actually going to leave those threads in because I'm going to have to chop and change too much. So now I've done one side of the zip and I've top stitched it, but I've put the blue in the bobbin so it's nice and tidy. Now all I do is take my clips off. I bring my right side of my fabric to the right side of my zip, and I pin, I clip. I don't pin anything these days. I clip, and making sure it's all even, and I lay this down. I'm just going to leave the colour threads on, and I'm going to just sew my zip in, not going close to my zip, just sew my zip in like you normally would, just because it's only the first stitch. So just sew your zip in, lock it off. Now here's what you wouldn't think you'd do. So you have got your outer bag made and your zip is sewn in, and here's your sewing line. Now all you do is bring your inner bag up here, so you're actually making two separate pouches. So now I'm just going to make sure this is nice and even, and I'm going to clip here, and I'm going to clip here, and now I'm going to sew inside that line. Actually it's good because it's a darker colour. So now I'm sewing exactly the same as I did before, but I'm sewing inside that line. So this will be good actually. In hindsight, it's worked out really well. I've got two different colours on because you'll be able to see exactly where I'm stitching. I'm sure I did that without even realising how clever that was, because you can see it clearly. Orange thread and blue. Okay. Cut my thread. So you can see clearly there, I have stitched my orange row inside my blue row. So now I know it's going to be really tidy. Now all I do now is I turn my bag in the right way. So I've got my bag in the right way, and then I just open up my lining, put my hand through, make sure it's sitting nice and flat, and undo my zip, open this out, put a clip down here, like that, put a clip pulling my lining down here, and yes, you guessed it, you're going to top stitch this part. So here's my underneath. I'm just going to give it a quick press to make sure it doesn't sneak forward while I'm sewing it. And if you're worried, put a pin, a nice long pin through there, just to make sure that it holds that lining back. So you can see why you have a longer zip, because now I want to top stitch. So which way am I going to go? This way will be easier actually. So I'm now just going to put my needle position to my right. Do it the easiest way that works for you. My needle position to the right, I've got my nice long stitch, and all I'm doing is top stitching my zip in. Okay, and you're not going to catch anything because your zip's nice and long. Close my scissors, don't want to prick my finger. And I've got the blue thread underneath, so everything's going to be nice and tidy. These are very, very quick to make and quite fun. Clip your threads. Don't know how I got a thread there, but I did. Clip your threads. Now all you do is zip your zip up. Now where your top zipper is the top of your bag. So the top zipper, the bottom zipper is going to be folded the opposite way than the top. So I'm going to find the halfway mark of my zip. So right here I'm going to put a clip, and this is the halfway mark of my bag. So what I'm going to do is fold it like a sandwich. So I'm just folding it over like that, matching my zip up to my clip, and then making sure your fabric, you have no tucks, and putting clips in here, and you're going to sew across the bottom of your triangle pouch. So there, make sure you open it out, make sure you've got no tucks, pop your clips on, and you're just going to stitch across the bottom. Doesn't matter, you're only holding it together. You're not needing to sew it as a 1/4 inch. You're just sewing it together to hold it. Okay. So just start, and it's on a long stitch and it doesn't matter. I'm only holding it together. Right across your zip. Now remember, it's only nylon, so you cannot hurt it. You're not going to break a needle or anything. And to tell you the truth, I've actually got a ballpoint needle in here because I'm going to be doing something with it later. I've got a ballpoint 80 in. So all I've done is sewn across my zip, and now I'm going to cut my zip off like that. And zip your zip down. Do not forget. Put your zip together. So I want you to make sure that's nice and even there. Put a clip, and then bring your lining and the rest of your bag, your triangle pouch it is, really tight, and bring it across so you are sandwiching everything together. Put your clips on and sew across here to hold. So they're very, very easy. They're very cute. Now, if you want to put a hanger, you'd put it in here now if you wanted to hang these up. Somebody suggested they could be really cute for Christmas, so which means she's going to make 24 and make it an advent calendar. Yeah, that's not going to happen in this household. All right, so now I'm just going to put my foot down, and I'm just going to stitch across here to hold it. There's my thread. That's it. And I'm leaving my foot on because it doesn't matter, because I'm only holding it together by stitching it, and come right up to your zip. and back stitch and cut your thread. I'll use these ones, and then cut your zip off. Okay, nice and tidy. Right, so that's all done, and you now have a little pouch. So to finish off the pouch, we just use a little binding. So the binding just goes right side to right side, doesn't matter which side you do it, and the excess, don't fold it back, wrap it around your end. This makes a beautiful binding because it's really tidy. So come up and wrap it around the end. Don't fold it back. So some people put their binding on here like this, and this is another method, and you fold it back and you stitch it, but you end up with a bit of an untidy mess. So if you wrap it, you'll end up with a really nice tidy finish. Now you want to do a 1/4 inch seam, and then you want to use your number 10 edge stitch foot. So we are going to change to a 1/4 inch foot, which I don't believe I got out. And it is number 97 if you've got one of these machines. And I don't want to leave my orange thread on. I want to put on, is it a D foot, my jewel feed, and I want to take this off. So I'm going to cut my thread and take this off and put my blue thread on. And I'll just do one because they're both going to be done exactly the same. So just a 1/4 inch seam, and then turn it over and top stitch it with a number 10 foot. So you can see I'm always chopping and changing, always using up threads. And then I'll show you what to do with them. This is a very fine thread, so just got to make sure I get in the needle. There we are. And it's just one of my embroidery threads that I'm using because it's the right colour. I didn't have the right colour. So where are we here? So I will do this one, and all I'm doing is starting here, 1/4 inch foot on, and stitch length back to normal, put my foot down, go forwards, go reverse, and then go all the way to the end with my 1/4 inch foot. Haven't put a guide on because I'm just using the foot as my guide because it's a 1/4 inch. I'll do the same to the bottom, and you'll see the benefit of this method because now, just cut the threads. Now all you do, because you've got it tidy, oh beautiful start, excellent pulling the threads, is you pull this up like this, pull this up like this, and then you have got your fold lines inside here. So when you halve that to your seam and fold it over, I'll just clip that bit of thread there. When you bring this over to here, you're going from here to your seam, and then you roll it over. You have a very nice tidy finish, and you clip it. And you would iron it. So there, fold it over and clip it. I don't worry about ironing it when it's really, really little like this. So just fold and clip, and all you're doing is covering those row of stitching, and it just comes over beautifully like that. It's a perfect size, and it's very, very easy, and it's a good method, really nice, easy method. So now I'm going to put on my number 10 foot, which I got out, I believe, and I put it in a safe place. Here it is, number 10 foot. Tell the machine you've got a number 10 foot on so that you're doing all the right things. Number 10. And I'm going to move my needle position so that when it comes over here to the right, it's going to be covering the top and the bottom. And what I do is I get one of my long pins and I just pop it down there Now, how far over is that? Nope, I'll leave it where it was. That's good. Go, just lock that off. And I'm going to put my stitch length out to top stitch, and I just use my pin and just keep that down while I start. Here we are. Take your clips out as you go, and you've got a nice top stitch. Really easy with the foot because the bar of the foot is running on the folded edge of my binding. And then just hold it at the end. Take the pin out and reverse. Now if you want to, when you get to here, don't cut the thread. If you want to, pull it out, go like that. And if you want to hand stitch that together, you can. Do I? No. Why would I? It's just a pouch. I wouldn't bother. But it makes a very nice tidy finish. So on the front and the back, you get it nice and even on both sides. It's brilliant. It's really good. Do the same thing to the bottom. So that's how you make your little pouch. So I think they're kind of cool. So you've also got the pattern for that. Now when we come back, I'm going to show you some really cool things, and one of them is in your new club magazine, which is somewhere amongst this, and I will find it when we come back. I did have it, but it's disappeared, so I will see you very shortly.